I'm sitting outside because it's tolerable to sit out here for 10 minutes opposed to the last couple of days where it's been just crazy insanely hot, and it still is. I might melt, we'll see. But I got a message that people wanted to see something about drawing. Interestingly enough, I started in visual journaling by drawing. I did a little bit of collage first and then I drew. So I will show you. This was my very first drawing that I ever did, and I thought it sucked, and then I did this one a couple of days later. And the way that I taught myself to draw was to draw something every single day. So there's all kinds of things drawn in this, and this was my first visual journal, by the way. I just would find something to draw, and then this was the first time I colored anything in. I think this was watercolor like colored pencils. That was how I learned to draw, was just by drawing stuff. And the question was is tips on how to do it, and I guess the only tip I can give you is to do it. One of the things I love is that An Everyday Matters by Danny Gregory, or I don't know if it was in that one or in his later book, but I was reading his blog by that time, and he said work in pen. And you would think work in pen, but then you can't erase. And that's the whole point, is that by working in pen, you aren't able to erase and get obsessive and try to make it perfect. When you work in pen, that's how it's going to be, and you can just get the drawing done and move on. You're not sitting there obsessing over it, trying to figure out if it's perfect, trying to figure out if you've done it right. The point is that you've done it, and then you move on, and you do something else. So, for example, the title thing that I used in this to show you guys was done in pen. So there she is. And the only thing I didn't do in pen was her braids, because I had no idea how to do braids. So I did those in pencil, and then I went over them with pen. But everything else, like her eyes and stuff, and her eyes aren't even, and I'm sure I could have done more on the hair and improved on things here and there, but at least I did it. And I found that doing that kind of drawing in your journal really helps you to stick to it. Because like I said, it takes 5, 10, 15 minutes to just sit down and draw something, and you're done, and you have something drawn in your journal. Okay, you're working on a journal page and you want to draw something over it, and you don't know how to do it. There's a couple things you can do. First off, you can draw it on a scrap piece of paper with pen, and then work off of that. I found that working off photographs really helps, because then you have that 3D image translated into 2D, and you just have to follow the drawings. You could even use tracing paper and trace it. You can also draw in pencil over it. Sometimes pencil doesn't show up over paint and stuff, but you should be able to see the faint outline. You can always use a white charcoal pencil, because that usually rubs away really well. Or you can just freehand it and see what happens. And personally, that's what I do. I actually like to do a lot of freehand drawing in my journal, and that's how I learned how to draw things, and just repetition, doing it over and over and over again, and not worrying about how it's going to look when you're finished. Now, of course, it's different when you're working on a painting, because you want it to look a certain way, and I actually work backwards. I actually draw the figure or the girl or the person first, and I draw it in pencil, and then I do the whole page, and usually the image will show through the layers that I'm doing, or I sometimes try to work through the layers. But more often than not, I draw that pencil drawing to give me kind of an idea of where I'm going to put everything, and then when it's covered up and I'm going on with everything, I draw her again over the background that I've created. So there's a couple different ways to go about it, but I guess the only advice I can give you if you want to draw more in your journal is to just do it. And instead of making every single page in your journal an art journal page where it's full of paint and layers and collage, leave some pages that are just you doodling or drawing and working, and use it as a sketchbook instead of, you know, an art journal. You know, just draw something and write, or draw all over the page different ways of drawing eyes. I mean, a really good way to figure out how to draw is to find artists who have done drawings that you like and trying to copy them. You look at the picture and then you try to draw it yourself, and you try to, you know, see how they draw eyes, because everybody draws eyes differently and it just has to be your own way. But I think that once you've experimented and gotten the basic parts or components of the eye or the mouth or the nose and stuff, and you've copied enough of the stuff that you really like, you should just like let go and let your hand do it, and it'll make something completely unique that you didn't even know you could make because you were using your brain too much instead of just letting your hands work and do the drawing itself. So I hope that helps a little bit in you figuring out how to draw more in your journal. You know, you can make it a goal where you have to draw one thing on each page. You can make it a goal where you carve out a half hour 3 times a week to draw. But it's really a lot of just sitting down to do it and figuring out what works for you and what materials you like working with and what look you're looking for. So with keeping that in mind, I hope you go, after you're done watching this and watching me draw in my journal, that you too will go and try to draw some stuff yourself. So until next week.